welcome to another episode of Up in the Air. I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh.
And I'm Mike Klosnick.
We have yet another fantastic show planned tonight. We'll have a story about the role a certain bird plays on our forests and an update on maple syrup season in northern New England.
We'll also have a feature on the urban heat island effect, and Hunter will stop by later to give you your climate outlook.
But for now, let's start with Update in the Air.
Scientists at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, NCAR, have come to the conclusion that the southwestern United States is becoming consistently drier. NCAR explicitly stated that weather patterns that bring moisture to the southwestern United States are becoming more rare. This actually is in agreement with their global climate models, as the models have predicted such events to occur for some time. The following chart shows how much drier this part of the U.S. has become, and it doesn't even include the last 5 years. Although it is difficult to pinpoint exactly all factors regarding the shift toward a drier climate, there is evidence to show that carbon pollution is a factor. NCAR stands by this statement as well. Unfortunately, these new dust bowl levels of dryness are forecast to become the norm for the next few decades according to the models. In the Southwest, there is no suppression for the seemingly endless drought in the near future.
To you, crows and jays might be noisy, obnoxious birds who eat garbage. But for large-seated trees like pines, hickories, oaks, and chestnuts, they could be life-saving heroes. That's because these birds can actually relocate forests that are threatened by changing climates and habitat loss. In a new paper published in ornithology journal, The Condor, a group of U.S. scientists describe how corvids' unique food-gathering strategies have transformed forests around the world. Now environmental scientists are actively using the animals as part of their reforestation strategies. Corvids, a family of birds that includes crows, ravens, jays, magpies, and nutcrackers, are called scatter hoarders. They roam large territories to scavenge seeds, fruit, and even meat, storing as many morsels as possible to eat later. That's the hoard part. But they don't have one giant stash full of loot the way squirrels do. Instead, they hide each treat in a separate place, occasionally moving it around to prevent other animals from finding it. That's the scatter part. Corvids are incredibly intelligent with excellent visual memory. Corvid appetites have even helped to improve the fitness of pine and oak forests.
The New Hampshire maple syrup season has gotten off to a quick start, according to Mike Moore, the co-owner of Sunnyside Maple Inc. in Roden, New Hampshire. The relatively mild-mannered winter has allowed the farm to start drilling trees already. However, Mike Moore also stated that the weather the farm receives in the always mysterious March will determine their output. The absence of snow allows equipment to be transferred less difficulty than usual. Additionally, the farm competes with the massive syrup production from Quebec, which produces about 80% of the world's maple syrup. Whether or not Sunnyside Maple has a good harvest this year is still up in the air.
An Earth Networks analysis found that data from its neighborhood-located WeatherBug weather sensors significantly improves the accuracy and precision of its home energy modeling, enabling the superior control and optimization capabilities of WeatherBug Home. WeatherBug Home delivers improvements of 26% for HVAC runtime and higher accuracy predictions for HVAC load and indoor temperatures compared to other weather networks with fewer sensors, resulting in greater energy efficiency, comfort, and cost savings for consumers. In addition to greater spatial resolution, the model also measured the impact of greater temporal resolution of WeatherBug data, which provides real-time weather sensor measurements versus 20 to 60-minute refresh rates for the other data set, and a greater depth of weather data measured, notably solar irradiance, which measures the strength of the sun hitting a home, a key factor in driving the required cooling or heating modeled to maintain a given set point temperature in the home.
The El Nino this year has been far from average, and with this very unique El Nino comes unique issues. Southern California typically sees more rain during a strong El Nino. However, that really has not happened a whole lot this year. Some people are perplexed by the obvious lack of rain, and some are asking where El Nino went. Many areas in California are even seeing brush fires from Santa Ana winds. What is the Santa Ana wind? It is wind that comes from the inland areas and descends down the mountains, making the wind warm and very dry. This usually affects Southern California in the autumn and winter. Why does this matter for the surprising suppression of rain? Well, there are two systems of high pressure that are causing this. The first is to the northeast, which enhances the Santa Ana winds, and another off the coast to the southwest of Southern California. This setup does not allow a lot of moisture to fall, and thus this incredibly severe drought continues.
Unusually colorful cloud formations across the UK have sparked false reports of the aurora. Many were surprised to see the bright lights in the sky on the evening of February 1st, with some mistaking them for the rare northern lights, which are typically not seen over Britain. However, Aurora Watch UK, Lancaster University's Aurora Monitoring Service, said the conditions were not right for the northern lights to appear over the country on Monday night. Instead, they believe the unusual lights were due to high-altitude clouds known as nacreous clouds. The rare sightings occur when sunlight from below the horizon is reflected and refracted by these clouds, which usually form in the stratosphere, around 15,000 to 25,000 feet from Earth's surface. Clouds typically do not form at such high altitudes, but during the winter, when temperatures drop, enough moisture can be present for the unusual formations to develop. The phenomenon usually occurs at twilight or just before dawn and can produce colorful, shimmering lights which look very similar to the auroras. We'll be back in a moment with more.
Welcome back to the show.
We now have a feature from Ryan Breton on the urban heat island effect and how it might impact your community.
Have you ever been told that cities can be substantially warmer than surrounding towns? No, this is not an urban legend. It's a real scientific process known as the urban heat island effect, and it's one way we are changing our climate. A city of 1 million people or more can be several degrees higher than its suburbs, especially in cases of extreme heat and bitter cold. Asphalt, concrete, and dark surfaces in cities have a more difficult time reflecting the sun's radiation. Instead, they absorb it. Combine that with the lack of green spaces and surface moisture in urban centers, and an island of heat forms, representing the difference in temperature between a city and its surrounding areas. This phenomenon is most pronounced at night, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. For example, in Boston, the average low temperature on August 1st is 66, but in nearby suburb Bedford, only about 15 miles to the northwest, the average low temperature is 61, 5 degrees lower. On a smaller scale, this effect can be felt here in State College, where Penn State meteorology records date back to the late 1890s. For example, on a cold morning in February, the temperature on campus bottomed out at a chilly -7, but the airport reached 11 degrees below zero, and nearby Ferguson Township was as cold as 12 below. A sign that even here in State College, more buildings, people, and infrastructure is having an impact on our temperatures. For Up in the Air, I'm Ryan Breton.
New York City, Los Angeles, New Orleans. A significant portion of the world's population lives within close proximity to the oceans, often in large cities such as these, though $1 million beach view may become a $1 million disaster. These cities are in danger of becoming submerged if sea levels continue to rise at the rate of about 1 inch per decade, according to a new climate model projection. Although this projection may seem minute, looking to the past, geologic records show that ice sheets are capable of causing rapid sea level rise, some as great as 3 to 4 times what we see today. So by the end of this century, sea levels could rise anywhere from 8 inches to a whopping 6.5 feet around the planet. A major player in the large uncertainty of sea level rise projections is, you guessed it, global warming.
Global warming raises sea levels in 2 ways. It warms ocean waters, which expand due to an increase in temperature. Also, global warming warms and melts ice stored in the massive ice sheets that cover Greenland and Antarctica. The melting of these ice sheets presents the largest uncertainty for sea level projections. For instance, sea level, which is measured relative to land, in the vicinity of the ice melt actually decreases because the ground underneath the melting ice rebounds as the heavy ice disappears. However, locations far away from these melting ice sheets won't be as fortunate. This redistribution of water can greatly impact sea levels of oceanside communities.
Let's consider New Orleans for a moment, a major thriving city that actually lies below sea levels in certain areas. If sea levels continue to rise at rates at the higher end of the projections, the Big Easy may not be so easy to navigate around without a boat. And although global warming's impact on sea levels is hard to ignore, there are other climatological events that can affect sea levels as well. Case in point, El Niño. An El Niño event or episode is, in a nutshell, the warming of waters in the equatorial Pacific. The arrival of warmer waters off the California coast actually raises sea levels. On the other hand, during a La Niña, its counterpart resulting in cooler than normal waters, sea levels tend to subside a bit. Now, in the distant future, climate change is expected to change ocean currents and the winds that drive them. These changes build up and can affect the distribution of heat within the oceans. As a result, El Niño and La Niña episodes along the equatorial Pacific may be impacted.
Although there are plenty of models that can accurately predict El Niño and La Niña, there are only two main models that scientists use to simulate sea level changes. These two types of models simulate Earth's atmosphere, ocean, and ice sheets to make projections about the future of sea levels. But the two don't always agree. While these models include decent representations of the ocean and atmosphere, the behavior of ice sheets is not as well represented. Therefore, until models can be improved to project ice sheet melt more accurately, the best scientists can do is to use current observations and modeling to protect coastal inhabitants in the near and distant future. For Up in the Air, I'm Matthew Koval.
And I'm Travis Patterson.
Welcome back, everybody.
You know, Mike, I can't believe we're already 2/3 through winter, meteorology speaking.
Yeah, no kidding. The time is seriously flying by.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hunter is standing by at the climate wall with a look at your 8 to 14 day outlook, which will take us through most of the month of February. Hunter?
It's hard to believe that we're already into the month of February. It seems like just the other day we were getting back for the fall semester. Now all of a sudden, February 8th. But let's go ahead and brush up on some of our climatological information for this time of year. The average high for February 8th, 35 degrees. We're starting to see that average high tick up just a little bit, but in case you were wondering if it was still winter, the average low, 17 degrees. And for the month of February in the snow and ice category, 11 inches on average for the month of February, so still very much in the midst of winter. And you'll see what I'm talking about now as we shift to the current snow depth across the Northeast. You can see pretty good coverage for just about everybody across the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast right now. Some very high totals up through New England, south of Boston. Some places have over 2 feet of snow on the ground. You'll see up through Maine some very extensive snow cover. And we actually have an image coming in from New Hampshire right now. This is a very beautiful image coming in from the Mount Washington Observatory. You can see the northern lights off in the distance. This picture was actually taken during halftime of the Super Bowl, so they had a little halftime show of their own over there at the Mount Washington Observatory. I think I choose this view over the halftime show of the Super Bowl as well. That's an absolutely gorgeous view. But shifting our focus to next week's pattern, you can see that the coldest of the air remains to our north and the warmest of the air remains to our south. So as we move on to the temperature outlook here, that will result in some slightly above normal temperatures as we move into the period February 16th to February 22nd on our 8 to 14 day outlook. And you'll have to go down to southern Florida to find some slightly below normal temperatures. But I'll tell you what, I think I'd still take a trip down to Miami right about now. That sounds pretty good. But shifting out west, above normal temperatures for just about everybody west of the Mississippi, and a pocket of well above normal temperatures centered around Phoenix and parts of central Arizona there. So plenty of above normal temperatures to go around as we head through the next 8 to 14 days. And on the precipitation outlook, you'll see for about the northern 2/3 of the state of Pennsylvania, we're looking at above normal precipitation. And that extends up through the rest of the Northeast into the New England states and stretching down through parts of the Mid-South as well. And moving out west, kind of a different story than what we've been looking at the past couple of weeks. An area of below normal precipitation likely through parts of Southern California, Central California, and into parts of Nevada. Of course, these areas dealing with a very extensive drought, and the drought monitor shows this very extensive drought through parts of Central California, again stretching up through Nevada down into Southern California as well. So unfortunately, it looks like these same drought-stricken areas will be dealing with areas of below normal precipitation through the next 8 to 14 days. We'll keep you updated with all the latest in these drought areas coming up here on Up in the Air over the next couple of weeks. That's all I have at the climate wall. Now I'll throw it back to the desk.
Thanks, Hunter.
That's all we have this week. Tune in next week for another episode. Until then, I'm Mike Kwasnick.
And I'm Nathan Flinchball. We'll see you next week, Up in the Air.